So I think we should we'll do the authenticity one first, and then we'll get into polyamory and polyamorous.
Let's do it.
That sound good?
Sounds good.
All right, cool.
All right. As we start, go ahead and introduce yourself and let the people know who you are, what you do, a little bit about yourself, where you're from.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So, my name is Collins Peters. People call me the Relationship Guru. I am currently in Los Angeles. I was born in Long Beach. Grew up between here and Miami, and my family's from Grenada. My dad's side from Grenada.
Okay.
Yeah. And what I do basically, I'm a relationship counselor. I had a spiritual experience. I used to be a producer and a musician in the industry and stuff like that. But then I had a spiritual experience, awakening, and enlightenment, whatever you want to call it. Met God like Moses did,
That's cool.
After that, switched up he gave me a new purpose. Let me understand things about life that I always wanted to know, questions, and try to understand how life is so crazy and why we're so stressed out and why people are so mean, and is God real? If he is, and why all this crazy stuff happens, all that stuff. So but I was still, to be clear though, I was humble in my asking to try and learn, right? Because you can't be like egotistical when you try to learn.
That's
because you'll get blocked, and you won't even open up the option. Like, you could even hear a truth and you'll block it because your ego will say, "No, I know better." It's like it don't go hand in hand. It's totally. Yeah. If you think you could just figure things out, like it limits your ability to learn from source, because you're only going from your mind, and if you're only going from your mind, then you only have the access to whatever your mind has perceived. Right. You're not tapped into the unlimited source. Yeah. All knowing comes from. Yeah. So it's like, you could be 7 years old, 8 years old, especially when we get like teenagers, we think we know everything. And you don't know anything, man. Like, you really don't know anything. You could be 90, 100, you still don't know nothing. Like, there's so much that we don't know, and there's even more that we don't know that we don't know. So, absolutely. So what we'll talk about today is a way to start accessing that higher self, that higher power, that understanding. When you get lost in life, or just confused, or just curious, even if you're just curious about something. Absolutely. It doesn't have to be like a dire situation or dire straits, like, oh, should I marry this man? Should I marry this woman or not? It could be something as simple as, should I eat at this food? Should I eat this food tonight? Should I order in, or should I go ahead and cook? But yeah, so that's what we'll talk about is the authenticity test. It's basically like the phone number that you could dial God with. You know what I mean? It's a phone number you can dial your higher self, which is directly connected to the Most High. So we'll do that, and then at the end of that, after we teach that, then we'll get into some. One of the projects that we're doing is polyamory based, and it's called Polyversity.life. And we'll start learning about this relationship structure in these non-traditional relationships, and get a slight little understanding of, and I'll let you ask questions and stuff like that about that. But we'll learn.
I wrote quite a few questions down for the polyamory, so we'll get into that.
Awesome. All right, so let's get into the first step. So I'm gonna do what I do with my clients, right? Okay. And for those who don't know, I'm a relationship counselor, quote unquote, by profession and by purpose, right? So, awesome. Anything dealing with life, right? So it's your traumas from childhood trauma and how it goes into your life today, how to connect to yourself, how to stop blocks, how to get outside of your limitations, and grow your love, grow your joy, grow your fun stuff, and have just less of the negative, more positive. So one of the ways that you can access that is by always knowing what is like your best path, right? Because that's something we struggle with a lot, right? Like we don't necessarily know, hey man, should I do I need to go back to school, or should I go to school, or should I do this job, or should I not do this job, or should I quit and start my own business, what all of these kind of like directional things, these choices that we got. This is the strategy that God basically gave me is like, hey man, if people want to access me at any point in time, they could use this technique.
Yeah.
And it's just a little tutorial on how to connect. Because we don't, we don't learn how to pray. Like I never learned how to pray. I never, like, nobody taught me.
Yeah.
How to pray. I thought it was just like, hey, God is great, God is good. Let us take it for our food, and and it's so much more simple than that. It's just a conversation, but it's hard to talk to something that you can't see. You're not really sure if you even fully believe in, like,
right.
Got issues with, you know what I mean? Like, how could you have a candid conversation with something that you're thinking isn't even there?
Absolutely.
So it's a 4-step process. We call it the authenticity test.
Okay.
And what I'll do is I'll create the distinction between authenticity and honesty. All right. So these are two things that we like to conflate with each other, but they actually mean two different things, and they come from two different places.
Okay.
All right. So just for the sake of vocabulary and like language, we can get on the same accord for everybody who's
absolutely. Hey, I'm learning something. Let's go.
Yeah. So consider that honesty is whatever truth that you like your mind believes, right? It's whatever truth is there. So you believe your name is Jalen, right? You believe that you're from where you're from, right? That's all things that your mind knows, right?
Right.
So if you were to say, my name is Fred, you took a lie detector test, that's gonna go off.
Right.
Right? Because it's not, your mind knows it's not true, right? However, the only problem is things that your mind believes is true is not always true. All right. So one of the things that every single one of our minds believe in one version or the other is that we're not good enough. Yeah. All right. Now that's not what's so. I mean, good enough isn't even in reality. It's a concept of the mind. It's an idea, but it's not a reality. I mean, people be like, hey, I'm not good enough to get the things that I want in life, or I'm not good enough to have the relationships I want in life. But good enough means nothing. You that same mind will look at somebody and be like, well, why do they have that person? They're not good enough to have that person.
It's like, what even measures that?
Yeah, it's this abstract, like, carrot on the end of a stick. No matter how close you get to it, it gets further away. No matter how close you get to it, it gets further away. Like, you're never getting close to this.
Can't say shit.
Yeah. So basically what it does is it gives you the opportunity to distinguish that, okay, my mind believes things that are true that aren't necessarily true. Let's just chalk that up to that's just programming, right? Now, but there are truths that are universal, right? There's some universal truths, but we don't even necessarily access that because we're not coming from a space of universe. We're not coming from a space of what could be existing in that outer realm of our mind, right? So I like to create it like, we are spirits and we have minds and we have bodies.
Right.
But those things aren't out. That's not us. That's things that we have, the things that we're connected to, but that's not us.
Yes, right.
You know what I mean? And it's a hard thing to kind of consider, and it's kind of crazy inducing, right? For a lot of people, because we're attached to our mind, we're attached to our identity, right? That version of what we think we are. Right. And it's always talking to us. So it's like, well, if that's not really me, then what am I? And what are all these things? It kind of, gets you into that realm of the unknown, and we all fear the unknown, at least to a certain extent, right? Yeah. So it's kind of crazy making to like start to embrace that first idea. It's like, okay, well, my mind is not me. So what the heck is like always talking to me all this time? Yeah. Am I schizophrenic? And I'll just create this. The difference between a schizophrenic and a quote unquote normal sane person is the schizophrenic hears the voices in their head as voices in their head. And normal people hear the voices in their head as themselves.
Okay.
All right. So, like, what's the same in both of them scenarios?
Let's say it again.
Like, what's the same in both of those scenarios with the schizophrenic and the normal person? What do they both have in common?
They're both hearing things.
Right. Right. So they both hearing voices in their head. The difference is one can recognize that these are voices in my head. Like, that's not me.
Right.
And the others, the quote unquote normal people, us sane folk, think that that's actually us.
Right.
But it doesn't really make sense in the grand scheme of things, because a lot of times those voices aren't for us.
Okay.
Right? Like, if the voices are you, right? If the voices are you, like, what level of self-preservation is it in telling you that you're garbage, you're not good enough, you're stupid?
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not like, that doesn't give you self-preservation. The brain, yeah, that's destruction. So the brain itself is designed to keep the body alive. That's why we don't got to think to breathe. We don't got to think to have our heart pump, right? That it's doing its own thing. As a matter of fact, it will like engineer, if you're on the edge of a cliff, it starts to send all of them adrenaline through the hey, get out of here.
What are you doing over here?
What are you doing, bro? Hey, that's a snake, bro. Look at that snake. It's reared up. Back up, homie. Back up. So the crazy thing is, we don't recognize when the mind is using that same fear thing for things that aren't actually life-threatening.
Right.
Like, we don't recognize it. Like, oh, I'm just this is for, bro. I got approach anxiety, right? Now, I may be a king. I may be all enlightened and all of da. But man, I see a beautiful woman. My mind is automatically in the space of, well, what you gonna say to her? Nah, you can't say that. Nah, you shouldn't say that. Oh man, nah, you better not even talk. Then I don't talk, right? And so then I don't do nothing. And then it's the same thing that says, oh, why you ain't talk to her? This is what you should have said. And so it's like, bro, the mind is like the worst frenemy that we could ever have. Like, it's not really for us most of the time. It's for itself, even to its own detriment. Like, like, you will hear things from your mind that are like, I remember I was in class one time, and I had this lady. I liked her. She was a really cool teacher. She was real nice. She was a sweet old, I wouldn't say old. She was like middle-aged probably. But like, to me, then I'm in high school, right? This like little country lady from Pahokee, Florida, right? She was our math teacher. And bro, like, she was just always nice. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I liked math, but I had a lot of negative experiences with math teachers. But she was just so nice. You know what I mean? She was just a sweet lady. And I remember one time she's up on the chalkboard, writing up on the chalkboard. And I just hear, oh, you should get up and throw your chair at her. bro, when I'm legit in the class, I'm like,
huh? Where'd that come from?
Like, bro, I like this lady, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you so stupid, you got exposed because you so stupid, you didn't do it around a teacher I hate. You know what I'm saying? Right. You're gonna do it, but that's one of the scenarios where that's God allowing things to happen that are negative so that you can gain something positive from it. Right?
Absolutely.
So I'm there hearing that. I'm like, bro, what the hell? I know that's not me, bro.
Right.
I know that's not me. There's no fucking way.
There's no way it don't add up.
Yeah, because I got no malice for this lady. I got no malice. As a matter of fact, I got positive associations with her. Like, I appreciate her. Right. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, wow, okay, that's wild. That's wild. So that, like, and then like, I instantly got present to the times when I was like 12 and 13, and I didn't want to be here no more, bro. And I got present to like, man, you should just like kill yourself, bro. Like, this life is worth it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, and I'm hearing it and thinking about it, right? Hearing it and reflecting on it. I'm like, well, I don't want to be here, but I don't want to kill myself. You know what I'm saying? Like, and now I'm making negotiations with the voices, right? And in my head, I'm like, well, I mean, maybe if I could just die without like killing myself, like that would be cool. Right. Then I can get out of here. But bro, like, I don't want to shoot myself in the head. I don't want to hang myself. I don't want to drown myself. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is real thoughts that went through my head in a state of depression. You know what I'm saying? Real thoughts, but they're not for me, right? Right. So that's where, that's to create for your viewers, like, the honesty. Yeah, those are things that my mind truly believes, right? Right. That, hey, you should kill yourself. Right. Like, nigga, you see your mom, you don't get to live with your dad. Like, you see how people are mean for no reason. Like, bro, you don't even want to be here. Right. So then, that's honesty. Like, if I were to say, nah, man, I never had those thoughts. I never thought about killing myself. I never was depressed. That would be a lie. It would be a lie. Right. But at the same time, it's not the truth, right? It's not the truth. It could have been my truth, right? People be like, "Oh, that's your truth." Nah, bro, that's my that's my mind's truth. It really believes those.
It's not you yourself's truth.
Not me, the higher self, like the thing that's listening to the mind.
Right.
So that sets up the premise of like, you know, authenticity versus honesty. That's the honesty now, just in a succinct way. Authenticity is your truth, your spirit's truth, the real you's truth, the higher self, the universe. That's what is so. It's not even about like true versus false. It's just what is so.
It just is.
You know what I'm saying? And what is so is always in line. It has an experience with it. Right? It has a feeling. And another thing that people don't necessarily know, a lot of people don't realize, is that the mind can't feel. Like it doesn't feel.
Right.
It can regenerate emotions. It can get the signals from the body through the nervous system, but the mind itself doesn't feel.
The body is what feels, but the mind doesn't.
Your body feels, right? And your spirit can feel.
Yeah. But the mind can't.
Yeah, all your mind can do is create emotions, right? And an emotion is like just the firing of synapses, bro. It can the same way it can trigger fear when it sees a snake to say get away, right? It's the same way it can trigger that fear when, hey, like I want to go out for this job interview, or I want to create this business, I want to go and talk to somebody and sell my product, I want to do this, that, whatever it is that I'm up to in life. I want to go skydiving, whatever it is, it'll create some version of fear that's not necessarily real and connected to death. You know, to try to dissuade us away from those things we want. Right. So, you know, and there's a reason why, you know, it specifically goes after things we want. And that's specifically because we have some kind of traumatic experience in our childhood. We could be 2-3 years old as we're learning, right? And the mind becomes a sponge at that age, right? And so, so there's some kind of traumatic experience. We might be present to it. We might not even be present to it. It might be just part of our program. We don't even realize it happened. We're 2 years old, like our finger in the socket. Now all of a sudden we scared of electricity, and we don't even know why. Right. So, so consider that's the distinction right there when it comes. Okay, well, what is actually my feeling and what is like my emotion is like. The mind can recreate, it can manifest. It's a manifestation machine. Like that's a machine, it can do that, right? But it doesn't really understand. It doesn't really get it. Right? It doesn't really get it because so many times we'll be afraid of things that aren't going to kill us. There aren't even physical dangers to us, but we're just afraid because it's a false version. It's the fires, it's the butterflies, it's the heart fluttering. These are the electric signals that start to happen, right? That it can recreate, but it doesn't feel. Right? So what actually can feel, again, like is your body and your spirit, like your being, the real you. And I don't like, it's weird to say your spirit because like it is you. Like you are the spirit. You don't have a spirit. You are the spirit.
You are it.
Have the body and you have the mind. Right? So that's so that brings us to our distinction of like authenticity versus honesty. Right? Honesty is your mind's truth. Authenticity is what is so true for your spirit, the real you, the higher self, the universe. Right? And so how do we distinguish between these two things is how it feels. All right, how it feels. Anytime, now this is where like God is really cool about how he created the universe, because it's all perfect. Like things in the universe aren't necessarily perfect in our perception, but it's still perfect. Right. It's like we don't really understand it, we don't get it, but it's still perfect. Like we don't like gravity when we're running. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And we walking a long distance or whatever, we gotta run, and then we're like, dang, gravity is trash. But then, we like you know how many things wouldn't work without gravity, bro? Like it just wouldn't work.
Exactly.
You ever try to run in your dreams? You know what I mean? Like run. You want the experience of the sensation of being able to like run, jump, and something like that. You don't do that without gravity, bro. Like,
exactly.
You know, so we might not like it all the time, but it is perfect. Like it is perfect. Even demons and freaking, negative things that happen in our lives, and sicknesses, all of that is actually part of the perfection, which is hard. Right. All right. So the difference is the feeling, right? It's going to be the feeling. So that'll be the fourth steps. Again, it's 4 steps, right? So I'm just going to run through each one, and then I'll go back and like do the tidbits of the how. Because one difference in what I teach is I don't teach the concept, right? Because what it is in life is really about practices. We can have a concept all day, but if we don't practice these concepts, if we don't learn how to distinguish how these things work, you don't.
How are you gonna?
You'll waste so much energy and time on your way to mastering something that you might even give up.
Right.
You know. So I'll give you the 4 steps, right? And then we're gonna run through how to do it. So the first step is to authentically ask a question out loud. Right? Authentically ask a question out loud. Second step is going to be you actively listen for an answer. Right? All right. Now, the third step is you immediately state out loud whatever you heard.
Okay.
All right. And then the 4th step is you reflect on how it feels. Get present to how it feels.
Right.
It's either positive or negative.
Okay.
We don't want to go to good or bad because all these associations have like weird things. Can be good, like punch somebody in the face, but it doesn't really sit. You know. So let's go back to the first step. The first step is, of course, authentically ask a question out loud. Now, why do we say authentically ask the question? Okay, so now we're talking about first authentic is like what's so for your spirit, right? Right. So now that's the higher self, the higher truth. Now, there's a way to ask a question authentically or inauthentically. Now we hear questions being asked hypothetically. We hear questions being asked rhetorically, sarcastically, right? But we don't hear the term authentically.
Yeah.
Right? We don't hear that. Now,
exactly.
There's a reason why because this isn't a part of our common verbiage, our common tongue, our common language, right? This is also why it's not a part of our common experience. This is why frustration and loss and feeling of like apathy or depression. This is why this is so common. It's so common suffering as a human being because we are so out of touch with like the very basic essentials of life. The very basic. Like what's going on here? What is going on in this crazy dimension, this world, this universe, whatever, right? So to authentically ask the question is a how. And the how is to ask it as if you don't know the answer.
Okay.
We seldom, if ever, ask questions this way.
Right.
We almost always ask a question anticipating someone either confirming or denying what we already think is true.
Right.
All right. We don't authentically ask, hey, where were you at last night? It's, where were you at last night? And I'm going to find out if you telling me the truth. You know what I'm saying? Are you going to lie to me and tell me that you was out with Barbara, you know, or some girl grinding on, I saw my friend told me that you was out, blah, blah, blah. Or are you going to tell me the truth that you was out there with Barbara, you know, doing whatever. And the experience, and like, if anybody's been on the receiving end of that situation, you know, even if it wasn't from a spouse or a girlfriend or a boyfriend, something like that, if it was like from our parents, you know what I mean? Our parents asking us a question, and we tell them, and they're like, "Nah, I don't want to hear it."
Like, nah.
You know what I mean? And like, and we could really be telling the truth. We could be really like being completely honest.
Right.
Right. But if they have it in their mind made up, like, no, you must think this is a game. Oh, you must think it's a game. I was like, game? Like, I don't think it's a game. And if it was,
I don't think I was playing.
Like, I wasn't playing. Oh, you just, you must. And I'm like, no, that's not what's up, right? So, and if anybody's been on the receiving end, you realize when somebody's asking you an inauthentic question for which nothing that you say will change what they, right? And so we don't have to honor those questions, right? But we can because we're human. All right, we're like, oh, well, I'll just say this or whatever because we got attachment to that person or whatever situation.
Yeah.
However, God ain't attached to us. So he already knows that it's going to be a waste of time to answer a question that you're not really asking.
Right. That makes sense.
You know, so it's like, yo, he's this perfect being out here. He can help you at any point in time. He wants to help you at any point in time, but he already knows that you ain't gonna listen when you're not really asking the question.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So like, why waste your time and energy? I've been talking to you your whole life and you don't listen. So now you ask me questions. I'm not gonna dignify that with an answer.
Yeah.
Which is why people throughout history have had that experience. So they're praying and trying to talk to God and they don't hear nothing. They don't get it. God, why are you not talking to me? Because you ain't talking to him.
Facts.
You know, the relationship is a two-way street.
That's facts.
Right? So that's in the space. And one of the things that I like to, you know, practice is trying to be as much like God as I can. And when people are asking me inauthentic questions, you know, I can hear it and I can feel it. It's kind of a byproduct of that kind of enlightenment or awakening, whatever. You feel everything, you know. And so sometimes just to humor them, I will, you know, answer the questions knowing that it's landing on infertile ground. Right? So
it's a lost cause type of thing.
Yeah, you know. So that authentically asking that question is as if you do not know the answer. It's so foreign to us because that gives us into a space of the unknown, and again, we are afraid of what we don't know. Right. So it's kind of hard to be vulnerable enough to ask a question and then like, okay, well, whatever you say is what you say. I'm gonna listen. You know, maybe you weren't out with Barbara last night. You know what I mean? You weren't letting some girl grind up on you. Like, okay, cool. Well then, damn. All right. Well then, now I gotta ask questions like, well, if that didn't happen, why is my friend telling me it happened? Is this my friend? You know, like what's going on? Like, do I need to reevaluate my friendships? Who I think is more important somewhere, or I'm validating them over and validating my significant others. Damn, scary. Now, who else is my friend that ain't really on my side? Ooh, you know what I mean? Yeah. So all stuff comes along, and you know, the fear will sometimes block us from actually accessing any type of real answers. Right. So that's why we authentically ask the question, right? And then we do it out loud because in our mind is a supercomputer. It's so fast. You could be in the middle of a dream, falling out the bed. By the time you reach off the bed till you hit the floor, kaplunk, the dream changes to like you're falling off of a building.
It's crazy.
It was like, yo, how did all of that happen in
that moment?
That moment, bro. Like, you know, time has slowed down for me in like an accident. I remember I was in a car accident, and I was driving. It wasn't a crazy bad accident, right? But I saw the person come out, and I couldn't stop because she just came out from the parking lot,
yeah,
right? And I slammed on the brakes, but I hit that bam, and from when I hit her, right, and then went into oncoming traffic, bro. I remembered that I had a dream about that. This exact experience. I remembered the dream. I remembered when I had the dream. I remember the thought process. Like I was like, oh no, now I'm going into oncoming traffic. I need to somehow veer off and see if I can get all the way across the road because I can't come back to this side because we might get a head-on collision at this point.
Yeah, you don't want that.
So now let me turn the wheel as hard as I can. The car is off, so the power steering is off. It just shut down, and so I'm not, you know, just trying to ride this thing all the way to the other side of the road.
Yeah.
Now all of that is going on. That whole thought process happened from
and it was literally like a second, like
2 seconds, maybe 3 seconds max.
Right. That's insane. It's crazy how that works.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So that's what we're up against, though. That's what we're up against. When we're trying to get the truth, that is what we're up against. Ooh. We're up against a thing that can say yes, no, yes, no, yes, because this, because that, but no, because that's, but. It's so fast. So we want to get, but I call it the garbage heap. This mind thing is, it's a garbage heap full of all of our past. All of our past worries, all of our things, and it projects it into the future. Mm-hmm. So we say it out loud, you know, so that we can get outside of that. And secondly, because it uses frequency. When you're speaking things out, you're using the very first things that cause creation of the entire universe.
Right.
You use basic building blocks so you can start accessing that God level power in you, that higher self, for a purpose that's actually for you. Because we're always talking.
Right.
But we usually are talking, even with just amongst friends, negatively about things.
That's facts.
Right? So we're using our power to confirm and create and manifest more negativity. That's what we're doing. We do it all the time. All right. So this is giving you a chance to get back into your power and start accessing that core level. So we authentically ask the question out loud. We don't hypothetically ask the question out loud. We don't rhetorically ask the question out loud. We don't sarcastically ask the question out loud. We ask it as if we don't know the answer. Now, here's a how. Your viewers, they can write this down. Here's a how you can access practicing how to do this thing that we rarely do, which is ask questions. Technically, you start with 3 warm-up questions. All right. Okay. Now you can make up your own, but the questions you're going to ask are questions that you don't know the answer to. Okay. All right. So now, how come everybody don't just do this, and then word isn't a great, a different place once they listen to this podcast, or why they haven't listened to something else? How come they just don't do it, right? Because we're out of practice, right? We're out of practice, and again, it's a fear. So how do we get past that? Here's one of the things that we do. Get present to the fact that we don't know a lot. Yeah. That's a fact. Get present to it. So you're not afraid of the possibility or the probability that you don't know this answer. It's a fact. We don't know, right? But it's hard for us to access and be in that space. And we'll give a test to your audience. Y'all can do this at home while you're doing it, and I'm gonna do it with you, right? So what is something that you know that you don't know?
That's a good question.
Right? Right?
That is a good question.
It's like, well, it's like the Wizard of Oz. You see the Wizard of Oz where it's like, don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain. It's like, yo, please don't look back here. I don't want nothing. We try to store all this stuff away. Like, we ain't trying to be in this area right here, right? Even though there's a little punk little dude behind that curtain, we ain't got to be afraid of that. You know what I'm saying? A little brain. Our brain is basically a freaking 3 or 4 or 5-year-old traumatized, just built over and over and over and over.
Literally, and just putting out projections out for the rest of your life.
You feel me? So I'm gonna give you one more chance, right? So now try to tap in, right? So people at home probably had that same blank, right? So we're gonna go again. What is something that you know that you don't know?
I don't know about scuba diving.
Perfect, right? You don't know about scuba diving, right? Like, you don't know exactly how much gas allows you to stay under for however long. Right. What exact tank you need in order to get this kind of depth and do whatever, right? There's a lot of stuff you don't know, right? Yeah. Now, but there are things that you do believe that you do know about scuba diving. Right. Right. So it's kind of tricky there. Like, well, shit, it's in the water. Underwater. I know that when you're scuba diving, you can get next to sharks, right? And you can drown in that bit in the water.
For real.
You feel me? So again, even that one accessing something that you don't know, there's so much past in that's like it's still not clean, right? Right. So what I teach is do 3 warm-up questions with things that you know that you don't know, but try and make it as abstract. So now you did great right there, right? So now try and make it something that's not something that you're married to, not something that you're worried about or like thinking of engaging in or not. Like, let it be outside of yourself, right? Right. So now try to give me something that you know that you don't know that you're not like really invested in or you're not attached to or resisting or anything like that.
Oh, let's see. Well, this is the first thing that came to me. I don't know anything about outer space. I don't know anything about the universe is so vast. I don't know anything about it besides what we know about the planets.
Right. Exactly. Now, right? So we don't know. Now that's a great thing. And again, it's another shaky one, right? Yeah. You're doing like immediate level, intermediate level questions around things you don't know, because you do know something about outer space. Right. And there's planets, that it's vast, right? You already created it, right? Right. All right. And there's so much stuff that we don't know, but that you do know that about that, right? So then your brain is going to try and come in, right? So just know, gave you 3 chances, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Right? So it's like, but there's something, and you're also curious about it. All right. So the little bit invested, like your identity will have a little bit invested in that, because there's all kind of conversations that have come about because of this whole idea of what's the universe? What is these planets? What does that really mean? Is there life out there? Is that who made it? Is it really as big as they say it is? Is Earth flat, round? Is all the things of those round, all those pictures? Like there's all these conversations, right? All up in that background, right? So now I'll give you 3 questions that I usually do.
Okay.
When I'm in some place and I'm invested or attached, or I got some attachment in there or whatever, and I got to release that, so I want to get in like, hey, what do I do, right? And what I use it's quantifiable things that I don't know the quantity of.
Okay.
Right. So it's like, how many drops of water are there in the Atlantic Ocean?
Yeah, that's
like, I don't know, right? Another one is how many on Long.
Sorry, say it again.
Yeah, so how many grains of sand are there on Long Beach?
Oh yeah.
Right? No way. You don't know. We don't know, right? And we know we don't know that, and it's also something that we can't access it, right? So it's not like certain facts about the universe that we can access that our brain knows, right? No, like let's just be vulnerable. Let's practice being vulnerable and get to that space. And the third one that I'll ask is like, what's the exact chemical composition of this couch that I'm sitting on?
Yeah, that's definitely a hard one.
Right? Like I don't know that, and I know I don't know that, right? I'm also not invested in the chemical composition of this couch so I can get free. It frees me up a little bit, right?
Right.
So I asked those 3 questions, and sometimes the fourth one I was like how many leaves are there on that tree that's outside my window?
Right.
Like we don't.
Let's go take your time.